Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. Today, we are looking at the last of the Jodie Whittaker specials, the end of the Jodie Whittaker era of Doctor Who, and the BBC Centenary special, The Power of the Doctor, written by Chris Chibnall. As always, because I do these unscripted, this is your only chance to abandon ship if you have not seen The Power of the Doctor yet. Otherwise, because I am putting a blanket spoiler warning in place. Otherwise, we are going to go straight on ahead. And right off the bat, it's so shocking. The best era New Who has ever had stuck the landing. I wish I could say I was surprised, but again, best era New Who has ever had. I really liked this. This might even be my favorite Regeneration story. Because, if I'm being honest, most of the Regeneration stories are not great, so that's kind of a low bar, of the 13 we've had. We had the 10th Planet, the War Games, Planet of the Spiders, Logopolis, the Caves of Androzani, No, you know what? Because I'm an expanded universe nut, The Brink of Death, the TV movie, Night of the Doctor. I suppose technically you could count Day of the Doctor for the War Doctor. I'm not going to. So, Bad Wolf, The Parting of the Ways, The End of Time, Time of the Doctor, wow, Twice Upon a Time. I missed one. Bad Wolf, The Parting of the Ways, The End of Time, Time of the Doctor, Twice Upon a Time, and now Power of the Doctor. Of those 13, only 3 to 4 of them are actually good. That's not a great track record. 10th Planet is decent, great for the introduction of the Cybermen and just how unexpected it is as the first Regeneration story. Granted, there were reasons for that. The War Games, great story. It's a standout of Patrick Troughton's era and one of the best stories of New Who. Really good. Although, my friends are going to hate me for this, I just know. I firmly fall into the camp, in terms of the War Games, I firmly fall into the camp. You could take out 3 to 4 episodes of the War Games and lose absolutely nothing of value. Logopolis is really good and honestly, I think kind of underrated. Caves of Androzani, considered one of the best Doctor Who stories of all time. The Brink of Death, up to this point, it was my favorite Regeneration story. The TV movie, mixed styling towards liking. You get it. You get the point I'm trying to make. Most of the Regeneration stories are not good. This might be my favorite Regeneration story. I need to think on that, certainly, because at the moment it's tied with The Brink of Death. But what a fantastic note for the show to end on, mostly. And even though I really liked it, in and of itself, this episode was not perfect. There were a few things that we will certainly talk about. So, first of all, let's talk about some of those things before I get into just praising this story. So the story opens with the Doctor, Yaz, and Dan intercepting and trying to help a train being hijacked by the Cybermen, for reasons we will hopefully discuss later. During that event, Dan almost loses his life. His helmet is shot because they're in spacesuits in the void of space, and he's almost lost in the vacuum. And right after this event is over, right after the conclusion of this event, like in the first 10 minutes of the episode, Dan decides he's had enough and wants to leave. So, let me get into this too. Both Dan and Yaz exit this episode. And once again, Chibnall understands what a companion exit should be. It should be a companion leaving the TARDIS, usually by their own choice. Sometimes they're forced to by circumstances or something, rather than being killed or being incapacitated in a way that prevents them from permanently traveling with the Doctor further. Chibnall gets that. He gets Doctor Who better than Davies or Moffat ever did. And there's a realism to it, which is a weird thing to say, that I kind of like. Or here, let me phrase it like this. I should say, there's a realism to the companion exits, weird as that sounds, that I kind of like over the forced, excessively angsty melodrama of Davies and Moffat's companion exits. It's just, I think the more than anything else, not even the events themselves, the placement of the exits, like Dan's right at the beginning and then Yaz's right at the end, was a little clunky. I feel like if you had moved these to some other point in the story or had them kind of done together, it would have worked better. That being said, once again, the pacing is really good for this episode. Everything moved along briskly. Nothing took too long to the point where you would be checking your watch and going, oh my God, how much longer do we have left? And at the same time, nothing moved too fast. There was no sense of, wait, that's it? Could we go back to that, please? It was perfectly paced. Once again, as always, the episode looks gorgeous. This has been the best looking era of Who, bar none. And even I noticed, like, in that opening train sequence and some other sequences mattered here throughout, it wasn't consistent. A lot of the computer generated effects didn't look that great, whereas others looked spectacular, mind you, but a lot of the ones that didn't look good, there was this classic Who charm to them, where even if the effects didn't look great, there was always this kind of charm to how corny they looked. You get that sense here in this story, whereas in a lot of earlier New Who, I'm going to keep comparing it to earlier eras, a lot of bad CG was just bad. The Lazarus Experiment. But yeah, you get where I'm going with that. Performances. Across the board, the performances were great. And I just thought of another point I should have brought up before I get here, but we'll talk more about that. The standout performances in this story for me were Sacha Dhawan as the Master and Janet Fielding as Tegan Javanka. I really liked the energy they brought to the role. Sacha Dhawan seemed to find... This is easily, of the 3 stories he's been in, Sacha Dhawan's best performance. Like, easily. Bar none. Like, he seemed to find a perfect balance between that sort of quietly scheming yet melodramatic Ainley Master he played in Spyfall and the over-the-top zany John Sim Master he played in The Timeless Children. He seemed to find the perfect balance between the two extremes and conveyed them here. Once again proving that, like Michelle Gomez and Alex McQueen, he is John Sim done right. Because he is very menacing. And once again, like in Series 12, the chemistry and the on-screen scenes between Jodie Whittaker and Sacha Dhawan are absolutely amazing. They are my favorite Doctor-Master dynamic because their chemistry is just so electrifying. And then there's Janet Fielding as Tegan, one of 2 classic companions brought back in this story. I was just in a group chat talking with my friends about this. Tegan, the way she's written, she kind of has wine mom energy. And she's just a highlight. She's really quotable. Just a lot of fun. Really, really great performance all around. There was one weird moment, I have to say. Like, right when Tegan and Ace, because Ace is also a player in this story, first meet the Doctor, she seems really bitter and angry and kind of brings up how they parted ways in Resurrection of the Daleks. Saying that, like, oh, you never visited me in 40 years. It's like, Tegan, you chose to leave the TARDIS, and at one point during your exit, you used the phrase, "It's not fun anymore." Like, that's all on you. But that was the only really slip up with Tegan. Everything else was really good, including a thing I don't know if I want to talk about here or later, because I kind of have to set the stage about it. Jodie Whittaker, once again, fantastic. She just brilliantly captures the optimistic nature of the Doctor. Like, when she's in her mindscape because of certain events, when she's essentially trapped in her mind, the way she refuses to back down and continues to persevere, that is everything the Doctor should be. There is no excessive angst. There's no looking sad in the rain or anything just so pointlessly angsty about her. Like, even in grim situations, she tries to bear it and persevere. And it really is what makes her one of the best doctors in the show. Um, Now, as I mentioned, Tegan and Ace come back, and there's a lot of side characters in this. Like, we have Tegan, Ace, Kate Stewart, Yaz, Vinder from Flux, and even Graham a little bit. Some of these choices I think were weird, but nothing felt wasted. Going back to the pacing and how it felt so perfectly paced. The division of labor felt really well handled in this story. Like, everyone has something to do. Kate had something to do. Ace had something to do. Yaz had something to do. I feel like that was kind of one of the problems with the Whittaker era overall. One of the minute problems is that the division of labor wasn't always handled well. Like, the Doctor got the bulk of the story, and then the companions were fighting for scraps. Not the case in this story. Like, as I mentioned, the division of labor is really well done. This is one of Yaz's best stories, I feel, for a companion who I don't think is as underserved as people like to claim she is, but certainly I always felt was one of the weaker links. Although, thinking back in hindsight, she is better than Ryan. Now, let's see what else was there. Okay, so I mentioned there was stuff I wanted to talk about with Tegan and Ace, and I mentioned the Doctor was in her mindscape. So, this story, kind of like Remembrance of the Daleks in a lot of ways, is an unofficial, or actually, let me backtrack a little bit. I've seen people compare this to the Five Doctors, which kind of fair comparison. But even though this is the centenary special celebrating 100 years of the BBC and it's not really celebrating Doctor Who, this story is kind of like Remembrance of the Daleks, an unofficial anniversary special. And it's a really good celebration of the show. Like, it knocks Day of the Doctor right out of the water, because Day of the Doctor claimed to be the 50th anniversary celebration and then spent the next hour and however long Day of the Doctor is only celebrating New Who. This special celebrates everything about the show, and it does so wonderfully. It works really well. In the Doctor's mindscape, the Doctor meets some of her previous selves. Specifically, we get David Bradley, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, and Paul McGann. The way they do that scene is really well done. I love the way all the Doctors still manage to play off each other in their brief time together, and how Jodie interacts with them. That was also really well done. There is also something very creatively done, like the Doctor gives Yaz, Tegan, and Ace. Sorry, it's 11 at night, so forgive me if I'm kind of struggling. The Doctor also gives Yaz, Tegan, and Ace these sort of holographic interfaces with a sentient AI that's only supposed to activate if the Doctor is permanently incapacitated. And it reacts to, the AI sort of reacts to the companion's thoughts and feelings. And in each of their scenes, like, for example, when the AI interacts with Tegan, it turns into Peter Davison, and when it interacts with Ace, it turns into Sylvester McCoy, and those scenes are phenomenal. For how brief they are really well good. They are really well done, and they demonstrate, once again, just how well Chibnall understands Doctor Who. Like, my favorite was the 5 Tegan scene, where Tegan's trying to get through Unit HQ, and it's like, all right, if you're the Doctor, tell me what I'm thinking now in a hall filled with Cybermen. And the Doctor just says, Adric. And it's a wonderful scene. I also really like the Ace scene now that I think about it, where Ace and the Seventh Doctor really acknowledge the kind of toxic relationship they had. How, the Doctor was always trying to steer Ace onto the right path, but it always came off as manipulating Ace. How they're kind of able to lay their demons to rest. As an expanded universe nut, I know some people might be bothered like this, but I can make peace with it because we have to kind of like Star Wars. The Doctor Who expanded universe is a niche, and only a minority of fans are going to be into it. So for most people, Doctor Who starts and stops at the TV show. So I can make peace with that because first and foremost, this episode was made for people who watch the show. That was a bit of a tangent. Anything else I want to say? The regeneration itself is fantastic. Probably the best New Who regeneration in the series. New Who regeneration. There's no long-winded speeches or, again, no pointless angst or melodrama. The Doctor smiles, grins and bears it. Like, pretty much she only says, "Tag, you're it." And then she regenerates. Into David Tennant. To start the new era with Russell T Davies as the showrunner. God, I hope it doesn't suck like last time. I'm sorry. You've seen some of my videos talking about this. Probably most notably when Russell T Davies was first announced as the next showrunner. David Tennant is my least favorite Doctor. And, to see him come back, paired up with the writer who is the reason why his show was so awful. Yeah, I am not hyped for the 60th anniversary specials. In fact, honestly, I am expecting the worst. I am expecting excessive, pointless angst. I am expecting severe melodrama. I like melodrama. I have a soap opera on my TV shelf here, but there is such a thing as too much, and the Davies era was one of those points. And I am expecting a glorification of the Doctor in a plotline that basically says, "Hey, revel in me, I'm God." Like, I'm excited for Ncuti Gatwa, don't get me wrong. I am not excited for the specials. Overall, Power of the Doctor is fantastic. It was a lovely celebration of the series, and an actual celebration of the whole series, unlike Day of the Doctor. And it was a great send-off for Jodie Whittaker. I'm probably going to give this a 9 out of 10. Do I score these? When did I stop scoring? Not important. Anyway, have you seen Power of the Doctor? What are your thoughts below? Start a conversation in the comments below. What are your thoughts below? What are your thoughts? Start a conversation in the comments below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload. And in the description box below, you'll find the link to my Twitter where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.